Hello, today for review I've got really interesting earphones made by company NF Audio, model named NA3, and they even labeled that it belongs to their essential line. I like NF Audio tunings and I still think that their NM2 Plus is one of the best models for those who are interested in sound focused on the micro contrast. It was curious for me to learn about NA3, to try it and to tell you. It's a pretty affordable model, it cost about $70. It exists in 3 color variations: black faceplates, pure white and red faceplates. I will add links to the AliExpress shop in the description, and actually that's pretty much all. It's a single dynamic driver model with spatial dual internal cavity, and let's have a closer look. Package is rather interesting. You can see that it's a noticeable step forward compared to regular matchbox-like packages that, for example, KZ uses. And they invented some interesting idea for the design. They use pixelated monsters. You can see one on faceplate. Box opens sideways. Here you can see some technical specifications. The most interesting is 32 ohms of impedance and 105 decibels of sensitivity, so pretty good in terms of impedance and sensitivity. Not too sensitive and not too hard to drive at the same time. Box opens sideways, and then we can pull out the contents of it. Here used typical for the NF Audio CD-like package. They reuse this idea in many models. So let's push earpieces out. Also you'll get nice pleasant leather storage pouch, stock cable, and set of 2 type of tips. So there are atmosphere ear tips, probably more natural and focused on the micro details, and balanced ear tips that should be more bassy. Actually, typically that's how this name translates. In terms of design, they are also pretty interesting. They are made of plastic, but actually here they used polycarbonate, so it's not a typical glossy plastic, and it has interesting touch and interesting feel. And you can see these unusual pixelated monsters on the faceplates, and overall build quality is pretty nice. Shells have a traditional shape, so fitting pretty well into ears. They have more than average length, so sound isolation is also slightly above average. It's not like absolutely isolating, but definitely passive sound isolation is strong part here. There is a lip for holding the tips and metal protective grill, that part that I pay attention usually. And here is the stock cable. It's made replaceable. They used 2-pin recessed connectors, and cable has some kind of rubber insulation, and it's slightly microphonic. It's not super soft, it's not too hard, but definitely not the softest cables ever. So you can get some microphonics, but luckily there are ear hooks that will reduce this effect. So here is left one for left earpiece. Connectors have a pretty good hold, nice ear hooks, and here is cable itself. It goes down to the splitter, and after splitter it goes to the regular 3.5mm jack. So in general, pretty decent build quality for this price range, really good accessory set. Only complaint here is that cable could be a bit softer. And of course about the sound. I gave them about 24 hours of burn-in and there were no big changes in sound, so no dedicated burn-in process required here. In terms of tuning, NF Audio really managed to balance things and create headphones that are suiting not to audiophiliacs, And at the same time they are not for those who like some really colored sound. It's basically model for those who want pretty technical sound, but not too technical, not too focused on the micro contrast, well balanced and without some big accents. And they really succeed in this aspect. They deliver a musical representation that is really pleasant to listen. So bass is kinda deep, it goes almost to maximum depth, but at the same time main accent on low frequencies made on the mid bass. So deeper bass is present, it builds like foundation for the rest of the tune, but it's not over dominating. It's not the fastest low frequencies, but resolution is pretty okay, as well as amount of details. So they balancing somewhere in between the speedy one and slow meaty low frequencies. It's definitely the model that avoids these two types of tuning. So you'll get a slight accent on the low frequencies, but at the same time it's not too big, it's not a bass head model. But at the same time it's, to my taste, it's enough of low frequencies even for bass heavy genres, and they deliver it with nice punch and in a pretty firm manner. Of course, they lacking a bit of overtone saturation for some audiophiliac recordings of instruments that goes to the deep low frequencies, but at the same time they sound pretty natural. They are not like hyperbolic natural like some earphones does, but you definitely will hear instruments as they are. On a really basic track, sometimes low frequencies can shadow mid frequencies, lower part of mid frequencies, but it won't be often, at least for my media library, it didn't happen too often. And as an example here I will mention Skullclub by the Glitch Mob. Famous track, famous electronic project, and nice bass line, pretty deep and impactful, and this earphones plays it pretty pleasant, at least to my taste. It also has a nice noticeable percussions at this track, and it's also a pleasantly tuned treble here, but we'll come to treble a bit later. Mid frequencies are organic, not trying to focus on the micro contrast, definitely not the model for critical listening for those who want to get every single nuance or detail, but at the same time they not like losing some important details from the track, they just don't focus them. And they are pretty forgiving for the quality of records. They are created for the not superb source and not superb materials, so they won't highlight issues too much. Imaginary stage is above average in width and in depth. Width is slightly bigger than depth, but still separation and 3D positioning is pretty nice. And they distribute weight really well, thanks to the dynamic driver nature, so instruments have a good body as well as vocal. They're not trying to highlight emotions or push forward dynamics, but when it's present in tracks, they play it pretty well. And as an example here, let's use The Doors, People Are Strange, and there are a lot of instruments here, and of course signature vocal and all that is saturated with nuances, and it sounds pretty well. These headphones are not too analytical to make it sound lifeless, and thanks to that organic representation, this track sounds pretty pleasant. And treble. They have slight accent on the upper mids and a bit on the lower treble, but in general treble has average extension. They're not super extended and not super highlighted. Lower part of treble is present, but then they are slightly rolled off, so they sound pretty comfortable. Not over soften in the treble area, but definitely not the most energetic model, so probably it's not a good choice for the treble lovers, but at the same time they definitely not lacking treble at all. Lower part is present and it gives you nice amount of overtones with really proper attacks and decays in terms of speed, but definitely nothing audiophilic like deep rich layering or something like that. Just good basic overtones to play percussions and stuff. And as an example for the treble, let's use a bit unusual track, but I really like this band. It's Royal Republic. Actually, they play some kind of hard rock, but it's really fast, really energetic, really groovy, and this group always turns my mood to something better. They help me to overcome some dark moments, so I really recommend it to you, especially if you like energetic and energetic. It's not like super brutal metal, but at the same time it's not like some pop rock either. And also they have fun lyrics and so on. And this track is really saturated with percussion, and with models that have energetic treble, it sounds a bit too sharp, like it all splashy, it's all about noise, but thanks to the roll-off in the treble here, this track sounds not too aggressive. In general, I prefer more treble, of course, because I'm a fan of treble, but not for such genres, of course. I like to get more treble with something more audiophilic and properly recorded. In terms of pairing, they are created for something like smartphones, inexpensive digital tonal converters. They don't require something expensive, super powerful, or something like that. And speaking about the conversions, let's think what we've got in this price tier. Moondrop Aria 2021 that I've tested some time ago. They are a bit more natural with a bit less low frequencies and slightly more accent on the micro contrast, and also a bit more aggressive treble. I don't think that Aria's treble is aggressive, but more aggressive than here. Not absolutely, but just relatively. And Dunu Titan S, it's actually a model for those who need like more focus on the micro contrast, more brightness, more analytical listening. And the same applies actually to FIO FD1, probably even more natural and even more focused on the micro contrast. So this model is a step towards more musical representation. So it was NF Audio NA3, pretty good, well-balanced headphones. They are not super technical, but they are really pleasant to listen, and that's what they were created for. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and of course have a nice day.